right now I'm sitting in a hotel room in Salt Lake City. I've got about an hour before I've got to cross the street and head over to the convention center and give a speech. But something happened this morning where I caught myself going down a rabbit hole. I started worrying about something. Then the worries became even bigger. And I realized I'm doing that thing. I'm doing that thing where I am causing myself a lot of pain because I am catastrophizing. So many of us struggle with this. You may struggle with this, where your mind is constantly defaulting to what's going to go wrong, or you're always dwelling on problems that haven't happened yet. And so I thought, why don't I just jump on the mic while I have a little bit of time here and explain what just happened to me, because I know you're going to relate to it. So here's the deal. So I wake up and I roll out of bed and I start my normal morning routine and I pick up my phone. And one of the reasons why I picked up my phone is because our oldest child, our daughter Sawyer, who's 24 years old, is in the middle of a solo backpacking trip on the other side of the world. And this is something she's wanted to do for a long time. It's really well planned out. And of course, because I'm her mother, because I worry, I am tracking her location. And we're all on WhatsApp. We're in a family group text. And right now she is in Australia, and she had planned as part of her itinerary that she was going to go on a couple solo hikes. Cue the worry. Okay. I got my 24-year-old daughter, backpack on her back, in a country she's never been to. Obviously it's relatively safe, but that does not prevent me from coming up with all kinds of fantasies in my mind about what could go wrong. And so I've been pretty good. I've been really good. You know, I have been able to just enjoy from afar and not become a stalker. But something happened that caused me to spiral this morning. She summited this mountain in Australia to see a sunrise 2 days ago, and I haven't heard from her. And I go to track her location, and I'm like, where is she? And it's sort of rainbow wheeling, so I can't quite see where she is. And I know she's okay because she posted something on social media. But I woke up this morning and I immediately looked at my WhatsApp. There was no message from her in the family group chat. There was no message from her directly to me. I then went to Instagram. I looked in the DMs. There was no DM from her. And I started to panic. And what did my mind think? I'm almost embarrassed to tell you. Why don't you just step in my shoes for a minute? What do you think Mel Robbins was thinking, knowing that her daughter had summited a mountain alone? It's like a 5-mile hike up. She started at 4 o'clock in the morning to see the sunrise. We saw the photos of the sunrise. Haven't heard from her since. What do you think my mind is thinking right now? It's been 48 hours. She's on the other side of the world. Oh, you know, I'm not thinking, oh, I bet she met some friends and she's out having fun. Or maybe her phone died. Or you know what, Mel? Maybe she's so busy that she doesn't have time to talk to you, because the whole point of her trip is not to keep you posted of her whereabouts. It's for her to go out and have this incredible experience and to grow and to discover and to be brave and to explore. That's not what my mind thought. Nope. You know what my mind thought? She's dead. She fell off the mountain after taking the sunrise photo. The woman is dead. Then I thought, no, maybe she got kidnapped. Then I thought, oh, no, she was sexually assaulted on the side of the trail. And somebody, this is disgusting, I know, but do not tell me that you don't do the same thing, that your mind goes dark. I'm talking gruesome, scary horror movie, dark, like in a nanosecond. And here's the thing. I know that this is a terrible thing to do. I know that this causes me pain. And I bet you do it too. I know you do, in fact, because I've seen the DMs that you write to me, whether it's you are worried about your money and you're constantly worried about something bad happening with your money or getting fired or forgetting about something for your kids. And that's where your brain is constantly settling. And here's what we're going to do today, because we're all guilty of this. There's so much research around the fact that worry is so painful in your life. Worry is a habit. This is a really, really bad spiral to get into. It causes you a lot of pain. It causes you a lot of stress. It can certainly bring on anxiety. And if you already struggle with a little bit of anxiety, it can make it a lot worse. It doesn't help with your confidence. And 1 out of 3 people, according to research, struggle with constant worrying. And so what I want to share with you today is a 6-word sentence that I use all the time in these moments when I catch my mind spiraling. And it really helps. And it really helps me because it stops that freight train of bad and negative and catastrophic thoughts. And here's the 6 words. You ready? This is what I say to myself. What if it all works out? So as I'm standing this morning in my underwear, I don't even have a bra on this morning, and I've already visualized my daughter falling to her death off of a cliff in the middle of nowhere in Australia. I'm brushing my teeth, and I'm starting to notice my anxiety rising. It's 6:15 in the morning here, and I have inflicted self-torture on myself before I've had a glass of water or a cup of coffee. This is completely unnecessary. And I catch myself. And this is what I want to teach you to do, because you need to start catching yourself. I think you and I can agree that we can't control anything that's happening outside of us, right? But we can certainly control our reaction to it. And so I'm standing there in my underwear. I'm visualizing my daughter's death or the fact that she's been kidnapped and abducted. And I notice the stress rise, and I say to myself, Mel, what if it all works out? What if it all works out? I mean, you can't argue with that, right? What if it all works out? Because in this moment where you're worried about getting fired, or you're worried about forgetting something for your kids, or you're worried about what will happen if the people that you love the most are going to die before you can say goodbye. Or this one happens for me a lot. I'll be sitting on a plane and it's taking off, and I suddenly spiral and think, if this plane crashes, I'm not going to see my daughter's wedding. I'm not going to meet my grandkids. I'm not going to get to do all this stuff that I really want to do in my life. And in that moment where I'm in the negative, what if this, what if that, what if the other thing? And I feel the pain rising, and I feel the stress rising, and I feel the self-inflicted torture coming on, I simply drop in those 6 words. What if it all works out? And here's what happens. It stops the spiral. That's the first thing that happens. What if it all works out? You just hit the brakes on the locomotive of worry. The second thing that happens is, because it's a question, what if it all works out? You actually pause for a second and consider it. And what you realize when you stop for a second and you pause and you consider, what if it all works out, is you don't actually know what's going to happen, do you? You're just choosing to make yourself believe that something terrible has already happened. But the truth is, in this moment, you don't know. And so it is a fact, a logical fact, that it could all work out. And in fact, based on the research, this is kind of amazing. I want to throw some research at you. Let me find this. You can hear me flipping through my papers because there's a lot of really interesting stuff. There is a study at Penn State where they looked at chronic worrying. And the average person has 3 to 4 major worries a day. Okay. What if I get fired? What if I'm not happy? What if my marriage ends? Will I find love and have children? What if I don't make the money? What if this? What if that? What if the other thing? All these worries that every single one of us, you and me, we have at least 3 or 4 of them that cause us stress or make us feel some level of pain. According to this Penn State study, 91% of those worries are completely false. It's self-inflicted torture. And I think you and I both know that. And here's the other really kind of interesting thing. You know, the other 9% of the worries that do happen, the outcome is almost always way better than you expected. Period. Okay? The outcome is way better than you expected about a third of the time. So what does this mean? This means that you going, what if it's a disaster? What if this happens? What if she's fallen off a cliff? What if I never hear from her again? What if she doesn't? What if it all works out? See, you don't know, do you? You don't know if you're getting fired. You don't know if you're going to run out of money, but you can rely on the research that 91% of the time it doesn't happen, and a third of the 9% of the remaining, it's way better than you thought, and that leaves you with a 6% chance that something might happen. And here's how I look at this. If something bad happens, I will deal with it then. Why do I need to torture myself now when I don't even know if something amazing is happening or something bad is happening? And so what if it all works out is a way for you to catch yourself, because you and I inflict so much pain, and it is pain. It's pain when you do this to yourself. It was painful to stand in the bathroom here in Salt Lake in my underwear, brushing my teeth, thinking about my daughter's death. And it's completely ridiculous. It's not like, give me a break, Mel. Give me a freaking break. And I know all our fans right now in Australia and New Zealand are like, oh, she's fine. Like that is ridiculous, Mel. It is so fabulous. People do this all the time. They hike that trail. It's wide. It's this, it's that. I know the mountain you're talking about because she went up for the sunrise. You're completely ridiculous. That's why you need this 6-word sentence. What if it all works out? Because it will interrupt the spiral. And what we're going to talk about next is why it's important to interrupt the spiral. You know this based on common sense. Why go through life torturing yourself? Why allow your mind to dwell in worries about things that either haven't happened or problems that haven't resulted yet or situations that are beyond your control? Why do this? And I'm here to tell you, I don't want you to do this. And I want to bring in some spirituality real quick, because there is this saying in Buddhism that I think is so beautiful, and it's so relevant to what you and I are talking about right now. You ready? So in Buddhism, any time that you or I suffer from some kind of misfortune, and the misfortune might just be that you haven't heard from somebody in a couple days, or it might just be that you got a bad annual review at work, or it might just be that you suddenly got a bill or a diagnosis that scares the living daylights out of you, okay? Anytime that a human being suffers some kind of misfortune in life, there are 2 arrows that get fired. You ready? The first arrow hits you when the painful event occurs. So this is the arrow that gets fired at you, like right in your heart. And for me this morning, as small of an example as it is, grabbing my phone, looking for my daughter's location, seeing a rainbow wheel instead of some sort of location at a hostel, thinking about the fact that I haven't heard from her since I saw the sunrise photo 2 days ago. That moment, was an arrow. Your arrow might be that somebody breaks up with you. It might be the number on the scale. It might be, again, that bill that just arrived and you're like, I don't have $1,000 to fix my car right now. It might be that you didn't get into the school you wanted to get into. It might be that you start coughing and you're really worried about something going on because there's something that is a health diagnosis in your family. There is the first arrow. Boom, hits, right? The second arrow that gets fired is your reaction to what just happened. It's the arrow that you fire at yourself based on what you think next. And when you start to understand that life is going to fire arrows at you all the time, the research shows you get at least 3 or 4 a day, that triggers you to worry. The worry, the anxiety, the catastrophizing, that is the second arrow. And it causes you so much pain. And I'm going to prove this to you based on some research studies that they've done about how anticipatory worry or being afraid of something or this kind of negative thinking lights up the pain pathways in your brain. And I love this visual of the 2 arrows in life. right? That anytime you suffer misfortune, boom, 2 arrows fly in the air. The first one is fired by life. It hits you right in the heart. And the second arrow is the arrow that you fire right into your forehead. It's your reaction. And that adds pain. And this is also a concept that has been studied and researched extensively in psychology. What psychologists and psychiatrists call this is having a primary and secondary emotional response. So your primary emotional response is your immediate reaction to having something bad happen, or a fear of yours, or some sort of expectation that you have. The secondary emotion that you feel, this is the thing that lingers, is the emotions that you sit with in reaction to it. So examples of this might be that when somebody dies, you have a primary emotion of profound shock and sadness and despair. It's that just avalanche that hits you. But the secondary emotion is the grief that can last a long time. And what we know based on research is that you don't really have a lot of control on the primary emotion. But there are a tremendous number of things that you can do in order to shorten the experience of the secondary emotion that you have. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about that second arrow, the pain you cause yourself. And we're talking about it specifically based on the pain that worrying and catastrophizing, assuming the worst, what that's doing to your health, to your mindset, to your nervous system, to your attitude, and to your ability to experience more joy and fulfillment in your life. And that's why I'm on a mission today to both stop myself from firing that second arrow at my forehead and interrupt it, grab it out of the air, so that I can assume something really good is happening. I can assume that it's all going to work out, and I can stop torturing myself with all this shit that I'm making up anyway. And I want you to do the exact same thing. In this video, I'm going to show you the specific way that you can use the 5-second rule to stop doubting yourself and worrying so much. Now, a lot of people will tell you, oh, just think positive, or try not to worry. It sounds simple, but it's not easy. And the reason why it's not easy is because it doesn't work. And actually, research shows that when you try to ignore your worries, it can actually make them worse. Look, I understand this topic more than most people because I struggled for decades, not only with worrying and self-doubt, I actually suffered from anxiety and panic attacks for almost 25 years. And in fact, I took Zoloft for 2 decades to control my anxiety. Using the 5-second rule, I've not only been able to stop worrying and doubting myself, I've cured myself of anxiety, and I've been off meds for more than 4 years. I'm panic attack free, and I almost never, ever worry about anything. And you can teach yourself to do the exact same thing using the rule. First, here's what I want you to know. You're not a worrier. A lot of us call ourselves a worrier, right? Oh, I'm a worrier. You're not a worrier. You have a habit of worrying. That's a very big difference. You've allowed your mind to drift and linger on negative thoughts so many times, it's now a pattern of behavior that you repeat, and you don't even realize it. And that's actually good news, because that means that you and I can use the science of habits to break the habit of worrying and the habit of doubting yourself. In the language of habit research, the 5-second rule is what psychologists call a starting ritual. It's a tool that you can use that will interrupt the negative thought patterns that are encoded in your brain as habits and trigger positive new thought and behavior patterns. The 5-second rule is shockingly effective because it works with all the latest research about habits. What I've learned using the 5-second rule is that I do in fact have control over what I think. And when you use the 5-second rule, you'll discover that you do too. Here's how you're going to use the rule. The moment that you feel your thoughts drift, and have you ever noticed how worrying and self-doubt, they have a way of literally like taking you away from a situation. You can feel your mind go from the present moment to drifting to something negative. Maybe you're sitting at a meeting at work and Suddenly you start talking down at yourself and doubting yourself. It happens like that. But the moment that you catch yourself do it, that's a moment of tremendous power. You have a decision to make. You can either sit there and listen to the worry and listen to the self-doubt and let it hijack you, or you can make a decision to assert control. That's when you use the rule. You're going to use the countdown trick, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's essential. Counting backwards interrupts the negative thought pattern. It's also going to awaken your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that you need to override a bad habit and replace your bad habit with a positive new one. So every time you feel your thoughts drift to something negative, or you find yourself worrying about things you can't control, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it'll switch the gears in your brain, it'll interrupt the negative thought pattern, it'll activate your prefrontal cortex, and you've just created a starting ritual that will prime your mind to accept a more positive thought. That is how you use the rule to change. Some days you might use the rule 20 times to interrupt your habit of worrying and doubting yourself. And over time, when you use the rule, the worries are going to quiet so much that you're going to find that your inner voice really starts to shine, just like it did for Kara. As she wrote, I've noticed that all the time she spends explaining herself, it creates so much noise that it drowns out her inner voice. And I'm so over it. It's been a great wake-up call to take time each day to be still, listen, and know. Worrying is wasting time. It's robbing you of what you want to do in your life, and it's making you suffer in a needless way. Look, I don't want you to get to the end of your life and look back and think, I wish I hadn't wasted so much of my precious life on stuff that didn't matter. I wish I didn't let all that stupid worrying keep me from doing the things that I always dreamt about doing. I'm here to tell you that you can learn how to switch your thoughts to something more productive and optimistic. This is great news. Worry is a hackable thing, and I'm going to use a ton of science and proven experience to show you just how to hack it using one magical tool. And here's the great news. Once you learn how worry starts, you can use that knowledge to make it stop. You can practice this magical tool every day to quiet your mind. I mean, just imagine that. A quiet mind. Wow. I know exactly how you feel. I mean, I know how exhausting and frustrating it is to constantly be trapped in the grinding cycle of worrying about everything. How do I know this? I lived it. I've always been worried. I mean, if you could be a baby that worries, that was me. I'm sure at 11 months, when my mom was running late to heat up my pureed carrots and potatoes, I was probably thinking, is she coming back? Where is she? I'm starving. I mean, I might just starve to death here. I think she hates me. She's left. Maybe she's angry about the face I made as I tried the pureed snow peas for lunch. Oh my gosh, what do I do? I have to find a new family to feed me. How am I going to find my new family? I got no connections, no money. I'm wearing a diaper. I can't even walk yet. I'm going to starve to death in the next 24 hours. That was baby Mel. And that was just the beginning. I mean, I was just kind of warming up for a life of worry on a very elite professional level. You know, as a little kid, I worried about everything from the teacher's reaction to whether or not the kid in the stall next to me was going to hear me fart. When I got to middle school, it was all about whether or not my tough skin jeans were cool or my acne or my new perm that I immediately regretted. When I was in college, I was worried if I studied enough for the test, if I was going to flunk out, if I was going to go blind from the grain alcohol I drank from the garbage can at that frat party. I worried if I had enough gas in the car to get to the grocery store. The truth about worrying is, once you let it start to spin, it just spins out of control. I'm sure you know this. I mean, worry has tormented me since I was a kid. It tormented me as a teen, in my 20s, my 30s, hell, my 40s. And if I can go from having this worry as my torturous default and learn how to interrupt it and redirect it and program a positive mind, you can too. Here's exactly what you need to do about worry and overthinking. Here's the magical tool I want to share with you. And I got to give you a warning. This is going to sound so simple. You might even start worrying that it's not going to work. That's why I have strung along this episode like it's an infomercial about worrying, because the solution is so simple, and it has to be. When it comes to your habit of worrying, you already overcomplicate everything. If I give you 3 steps to remember, you won't do any of them. That's how good you are at worrying. I need you to have something simple. So I've come up with this incredible way to do hand-to-hand combat with your worrying mind. Are you ready? Good. The second you catch yourself worrying, when you feel your mind spin, when you feel your shoulders pinch up towards your ears like new earrings and you feel your jaw clench, and wait, there's more. You feel yourself starting to get heavy and paralyzed and defeated, and those worries start to spin in your mind. Here's exactly what you're going to do. It's just 6 magical words. It encapsulates incredible research. It's so simple. You can do it. And don't worry, it's going to work. Here are the 6 magical words you're going to say to yourself every time you worry. What if it all works out? That's it. What if it all works out? Look, I know what you're thinking. You feel let down right now. That's because you're worried it's not going to work. But what if it all works out? What if these simple, stupid 6 words actually work? What if trying this works out? You just heard me say the words. What if it all works out? And you know what your response was? Well, I don't think it's going to work out. That's why I'm worrying. You got to trust me on this. Your worries sound just as dumb as this magical tool does. You have just listened to your worry for so long that you believe it. Now, I said this was hand-to-hand combat. You don't just throw one punch. You're going to have to keep on punching. Every time one of your stupid worries pop into your head, what if I don't get the apartment? What if I don't lose the weight? What if I don't get the raise? What if I look stupid my first day of work? What if nobody ever loves me? What if the swamp monster kills me? You need to punch those stupid worries in the face with 6 magical words, because this simple question breaks the pattern of worrying. Because if you think about worrying always begins with what if. In fact, my daughter used to call her worries the what if loop. I feel like I'm trapped in a what if loop, Mom. Well, guess what? You're trapped in a what if loop too. So you need just one fast, perfectly placed, boom, counterpunch. You need the same punch for every worry. So you get really good at punching every worry in the face. And that punch is, what if it all works out? That's the counterpunch you need to knock absolutely any worry and all overthinking away. It's pretty incredible. I'm here to tell you, in those moments when you get trapped in this, what if this, what if that, what if that, and you start spinning, you got to stop it. And the fastest way to stop the spinning is to say, well, what if it all works out? What if I get the apartment? What if I pass the test? What if the doctor says something and it's okay? What if he doesn't break up with me? What if he breaks up with me and it all works out? What if I get bad news and it all works out and I'm okay? It's a way to get back the feeling of control. You see, the research shows that when you feel out of control, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain behind your forehead, the part that's in charge of organizing information and making decisions, it basically stops working when you feel out of control. And that's why it's so hard to make decisions, and it's why it's hard to move ahead. You just get stuck in this dark mental loop because you literally are so focused on things not working out that you don't have anything positive to grab onto. What if it all works out? Gives you something positive to hold on to. It gives your brain the ladder out of a dark hole of worry. And all you have to do is step on the first rung. Because the first rung on that ladder out of that dark hole of worry is 6 simple words. What if it all works out? Ask it again and you step on the second rung. What if it all works out? Again, and you're on the third rung. Ask it repeatedly about the same problem, and it's like climbing up the ladder. And before you know it, the ladder, what if it all works out, has got you up so high, you are out of the hole of worry, and you have a completely different view of the situation. Listen, there will always be things that come out of nowhere. We can't stop the outside world. We can't stop the fact that you are probably going to worry about something every day. I mean, hello, global pandemic. People get sick. People say they don't want to be married. Jobs get taken away. The stock market drops. Shit happens. It's easy and normal to feel knocked down by life. But you can always use these 6 magical words to help you ride the ups and downs in life. What if it all works out? Doesn't mean it's going to work out today. One of the reasons why your brain loves the sentence, what if it all works out, is you haven't put a deadline at the end of it. The fact that you're saying, well, what if it all works out, automatically allows your brain to expand out of the current crisis, because you know, based on your life experience, that in the end, over the years, yeah, eventually, it does all work out. And, here's a third reason why these 6 magical words create opportunity, possibility, positivity, and a better situation. And that is because it anchors you in optimism. When you're worried and you say, how will it work out? When is it going to work out? What if it doesn't work out? The how and the when, it narrows your focus. It gets you caught in the worry loop, and it makes your thoughts and your moods spiral tighter and tighter and tighter. The second you say, well, what if it all works out? You just change that one word from how's it going to work out? How's it going to what if it all works out? I mean, come on. And it opens you up. You can just feel the different energy. How's it going to work out? What if it all works out? If you consider that it will all work out, you begin to see multiple paths. How puts the blinders on? It makes things really small. What if it all works out? Opens up the world of alternatives that you have, and it widens the scope. It widens the lens you're looking through, making room for better things to happen. The next time you hear yourself say, what if, and you start bracing for the worst, instead, just insert your new magic words. What if it all works out? What if this turns out to be the best decision I've ever made? What if I look back 6 months from now and this, right now, this was the moment I found the courage to be myself? What if I'm stronger and more resilient than I think? What if something amazing is happening and I just need to believe it? That last one is everything. I do believe something amazing is happening for you. I do believe that you are stronger and more resilient than you think. It will work out for you. She said, wait, you mean the fact that I exist deserves a high five? I said, yes. And when you high five yourself for just standing there in front of the mirror, you are demonstrating that you see you and all your potential, and that you support you and you believe in you, and that no matter what happened today or didn't happen today, you still have your own back. And then I said, well, what do you think about what I just wrote? And she said, I love it. It makes you feel great. And I said, well, can you explain why in your own words it makes you feel great? And she says, well, what the high five shows you is that you don't actually know how much you're always doing. And I think that once you start high-fiving yourself every single morning, it almost allows you to be more present to everything you are doing and to help you recognize all those small victories.
Yeah.
And when you compile those small victories, you can recognize all of your accomplishments, big and small, and eventually come to believe that not only are you worth it, but you can do anything.
Well, now there's like a mad rush of young people looking to see if you will adopt them. Because that's my first thought. My second thought was, okay, so when my daughter has anxiety, or my son has anxiety, my daughter more so will struggle with anxiety, and she's pretty open about it. There's a part of me that wants to fix it, and there's a part of me that's like, how can you have anxiety when I'm your mom, and we talk about these things, and I pump you up, and you have... You don't need to do anything to be amazing. And so she just gets this incredible pep talk. Most people would die that's like prose, basically, to read that and to be so encouraged. And so many people, not only do they not get that encouragement from their own parents, they don't get it from anyone.
Right.
So to think that she's getting that, and she's, her parents are together, and she's had this incredible opportunity to have someone pour into her all of her life, yet she still struggles with anxiety.
Crippling.
And so as a parent, that's something I'm always wanting, I struggle with that. Is it something I've done? Is it the manic way that I live my life? Am I the person who's giving her, because I don't have anxiety, so am I giving her anxiety?
So I have no idea. Here's the most important thing. It doesn't matter what you think or what you're feeling. because the anxiety is her felt experience.
That's right.
Right? And
Yeah.
as parents, I think one of the most heartbreaking and frustrating things is that oftentimes you have somebody in your life that you love, a son, a daughter, a partner, and you see all the amazing things about them, and they don't see any of it. Mm-hmm. And so this is also one of the big things in the book that we write about how your own mind has a filter in it, this thing called the reticular activity system. And that the filter in your brain is very different than the filter in anybody else's brain. And it's constantly changing in real time based on what you think is important to it. So this is all chapters, I think 4 through 7, we go through all this and teach you how to change the filter. You've experienced this filter, by the way. Mm-hmm. So when you go to buy a new car, right now, everybody's seeing Broncos everywhere, right? The new Bronco is out. So
Okay, now there's one. Now right. I will. I hadn't,
so
but now I will.
So when's the last time you bought a car?
In December.
Okay, and what happened once you decided what kind of car you were going to see?
I keep seeing that car everywhere.
Correct.
And when I see the same car in the same color, I try to run them off the road.
Yes, and so that's your brain changing the way it filters the world in real time because of what it thinks is important to you. So if I think, for example, that your daughter is beautiful, and your daughter thinks that she's the ugliest or the biggest of all her friends or whatever, it doesn't matter what I think.
Right.
It matters what she thinks. Mm-hmm. And when you tell yourself over and over that you're not good enough or you're a failure or you're this or you're that, your brain actually thinks it's important. I can give you an example. So my husband went into the restaurant business. It was a dream of his. And this is actually all part of the origin story of the 5-second rule. And he and his best friend launched these little pizza joints outside of Boston, Massachusetts. And it ends up not going great. And they work at it super, super hard for 7 years. And at the end of the business, they sold it for, pennies on the dollar to the next investor. They left the business and they did not return the profit that they had hoped to return to their investors. Now, our best friend, Chris's business partner, was able to leave that business and go, entrepreneurship. I'm proud of myself.
Sure.
We worked so hard. And yeah, did we do what we set out? No, but you know what? I feel good about what I did. My husband couldn't do that. He left that business and said, that failed, I'm a failure.
Oh.
And
was that his first big entrepreneurial?
Yep,
okay.
Yep. And for 7 years, he would drag that into the bathroom every morning.
Oh.
And the human being he saw staring back at him in the mirror was a failure because of that thing. That's actually why most people have anxiety, or because because they resist the high five habit. Because they are dragging their entire past into the bathroom and saying, because of these things that have been done to me or these things that I did that I wish I could change, I now see a person who does not deserve a high five.
Yeah.
And so you withhold the thing that you need to forgive yourself, to love yourself.
The thing that you would give to anyone else.
That's also why people feel anxious.
Well, let's talk about that. Worry and anxiety,
Yes.
the difference between the two.
You got it.
Because I don't worry, and it's almost a problem. I feel, I've talked about it before.
Why do you think you don't worry?
Well, I had my brain scanned, and Dr. Amen says I just don't have blood flow in that area. So part of it's genetic. Part of it is my faith.
Yep.
Part of it is the way I was raised. Like, you just roll with everything. So.
Yeah.
And my parents, I don't think were worriers, so I never learned the worry habit. I think that's part of it.
But then to your point, it's interesting. How did my daughter learn it? Right? If your daughter's struggling with it,
yes,
I'm going to fan myself because I actually think I might be having a hot flash.
Oh, that's so fantastic because that's another thing we talk a lot about is
you just let
the
it
change.
Go. I know. Who cares?
I haven't had any hot flashes yet.
What?
I shouldn't even.
How is that even
I probably
possible?
just jinxed myself.
Yes,
I don't know.
that's
My
all
mom
right.
didn't have a lot of hot flashes either.
It happens more and more.
So I don't worry.
All right, so let me tell you the difference. So worrying is nothing more than worrying is always about the future, by the way. Mm-hmm. It's never about the present moment.
True.
And so worrying is when your thoughts start to sound an alarm about what's going to happen.
Okay.
So it's the what if this, what if that, what if the other thing, what if loop that you can get trapped into. Mm-hmm. Anxiety is when your body state changes.
So worry is all the things that are happening in your head.
Yeah.
Oh, and anxiety you feel.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That helps me.
Yes.
Okay. So, and you're still having the thoughts too.
Correct.
Okay.
But a lot of times what will happen is that your body state can get so agitated that you even stop being present to what you're worried about, because now your mind goes, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I feel like my heart is racing. And you start to obsess over the physiology of your body. And I'm going to explain kind of even more about this.
Super helpful.
Panic is now the big brother of all of this. So worry's the little baby. Then we got the middle schooler, which is feeling it in your body. And then you got the big, like teenager of a panic attack, which is when the body state gets so scared and upset that now your brain has an emergency system that says, we're going to get you out of here. So if you've ever been around somebody who panics,
yes.
they're not rational.
No.
They're immediately like, I need to get out of the room.
I'm going to die.
I'm going to die. Like they go into a mode of get me out of here as a way to rescue themselves from a body that's now sounding a 5 alarm kind of fire. So there are 2 ways that anxiety can come on, this anxiety thing in your body. You can either start with your mind and all the what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happened? It can happen as you're scrolling through social media and you start to see that your friends all went out and they didn't invite you. Thanks a lot. Or you see the person that's, exercising and you start going, but I didn't exercise. And you start thinking it's never going to work out for me. Or you see all the couples and then you start thinking, what if I never meet anybody? So it can start with the thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And then your body starts to go, uh-oh. And your stomach gets tense and your armpits sweat and your heart starts to race. And that's how it ramps up. Or if you have trauma stored in your body from anything in your childhood or anything in your past, there will be times that you feel a surge of anxiety come on and you don't know why.
So there is no precursor. There's no, you're saying for certain people or in certain situations, you might just be washing the dishes and suddenly you have anxiety come on.
Correct.
And so I want, and again, I'm asking these questions because I haven't felt it. Yeah.
If it's a trauma response, it's because your nervous system just remembered something from your past. So I'll give
like
you
subconsciously?
Yeah. I'll give you a really, really common example that we've found in all the research that we've done and the people that we've coached. A lot of people get very on edge as the sun goes down. And the reason why is because if you grew up in a chaotic or abusive household, that's when people were coming home from work.
Yeah.
That's when the drinking began.
Or you came home from school.
Correct. If you hear tires on a gravel road, if you hear a beer can crack open, if you smell a certain cologne, those can be things that set you on edge. Sure. And that's not even something you're consciously aware of. It's your body remembering something. And your body's now trying to help you by going, pay attention, this is that thing. But then you're standing there washing your dishes, you feel this thing happen, and you're like, why am I feeling nervous? Why is my son? And then your thoughts go. This is how it escalates. So
can I ask somebody who feels anxiety all the time?
That's generalized anxiety, and that's what that's,
and is that a physical feeling that you feel all the time?
What that is there's an entire chapter around this book that'll change your life. I think it's chapter 7. It's called High-Fiving Your Heart. So when you're on edge all the time, let me teach you about your nervous system.
Yes. Because
I think everybody on the planet right now, having come out of the last 18 months, everybody is right now in a state of fight or flight. Everybody's nervous system is fried and on edge. Everybody is prone to being triggered because you have just gone through a level of sustained uncertainty that no human nervous system can manage.
Yeah.
So here's what everybody needs to know. You have 2 nervous systems, okay? You have something called the sympathetic nervous system, which is basically fight or flight.
Right.
This is your anxiety state. This is being on edge. This is feeling like the next shoe is going to drop. This is what psychologists call being dysregulated, okay? The second nervous system that you have is called the parasympathetic nervous system. And that is your calm, cool, grounded, resting nervous system. That's how we want you to go through your day.
Yeah.
Because when you are grounded in your body and you feel comfortable in your own skin, first of all, your prefrontal cortex can work. Secondly, you won't be as easily triggered. Third, you'll feel more optimistic and focused. And so I want to teach you a simple trick using science to switch off this on edge nervous system and switch on the really positive one. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to use something called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is a treasure, as you know, in your body. And it runs from your rear end all the way up to the top of your head, through every organ, through your vocal cords. All you're going to do is take your hands, put them right here in the center of your chest. You're going to press down. You're going to take a deep breath. And then you're going to say these 3 sentences. I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm loved.
I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm loved.
Yeah. What did you feel when you did that?
I believe those things.
Yeah.
I feel good.
Yeah.
I feel calmer.
Yeah.
So I suppose that brings you into that state?
Yes. And pressing here actually tones the vagus nerve, which is an on-off button between the on edge and the calm and cool. It's like a treasure. And so here's a couple things I want you to know. There are some mornings you might wake up and you need to do it 53 times. There are days you might stand in the grocery store and somebody cuts you off with their cart and it just sends you reeling. Hands on heart. Give your heart a high five. Pull yourself back into your body. Switch off that stress response. Switch on your grounded, calm, and control response.
Do you recommend people do that? I mean, is there a
Every
way
morning.
to put the brake on if you're someone who can pretty easily slip into a panic attack?
Yes. So this is something you want to start to do immediately. And I recommend you do it right after you get out of bed. Because I would like for you, before you get into the bathroom mirror, I would like for you to be present and on edge. And I would like for you to be grounded in your body when you start your day. It's an incredible gift that you can give yourself because you'll feel more in control and centered and present. And then when you step in front of that mirror, you will actually be able to be with yourself and to understand, okay, what do I need from myself today?
Yeah.
And it completely changes that moment. The other reason why this is important is because if your nervous system is on edge, and that's your default, yes, you're going to be way more prone to a panic attack because you are already idling at such a stressed out level, and all the chemical releases from the cortisol and everything else that's flooding your body. We need to get you back into a more neutral and grounded state. So that'll help for sure. And so it's important to understand, are my worries starting in my head or are they actually a felt experience in my body? Because then depending upon which or both it is, you can use 2 totally different strategies. First of all, this high-fiving your heart absolutely will work for trauma. It does not get rid of it. It helps you manage and live with it. I would recommend EMDR. I would also recommend...
We're big fans of EMDR.
Yeah, and the guided psychedelic modalities are incredible. I've done those for childhood trauma, and they've been unbelievable.
Amazing.
And so those sorts of things really help you heal trauma. This will help you control it, live with it, not be afraid of it, in terms of being able to settle your nervous system.
You've experienced anxiety, you said, all your life.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions around that. Number one, controlling it, managing it. What are your thoughts and your experiences with medication, SSRIs?
Oh, great question. So I took Zoloft from the age of 22 until probably 44.
Okay.
It was life-changing. It would,
Life-saving or life-changing or both?
both. It was the latter I needed to get out of a hole because when I finally got diagnosed with anxiety, I have a very interesting story because I fall into the group of women, and I know you do too, that were completely part of what they call the lost generation.
Yeah.
So when they came out, as you know, with the ADHD and ADD diagnosis back in the 70s.
Just a boy thing.
Just a boy thing, yeah. And the symptoms for women present completely differently. And when you don't treat ADHD, you tend to get anxiety.
Yeah.
And so there's a huge group of women our age that were treated and medicated for anxiety in their late teens and early 20s when the actual issue was ADD.
It's still happening today.
Oh, of course it is. Yes. It's actually one of these things I'm super passionate about getting out into the world.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until I discovered the 5-second rule and I started to do the part that you can do to interrupt the worry loop, which when you can cut the anxiety off at its knees by cutting off the worry cycle, you stop the escalation in your body.
Okay.
And so I can teach you guys how to do that. It's super simple. It's
Let's do it.
super
Let's do
effective.
it. Yeah.
There's one other thing I want to teach you about anxiety, though, that also is incredibly empowering because it makes so much sense. So anxiety has a purpose. Really important one, actually. Anxiety and that anxiety response in your body gets you to pay attention.
Yeah.
If you go into a state of being hyper alert before a test, you'll do better if you're not worried.
Absolutely.
Same with performance. Same with sports. Like it's really, and also it alerts you to danger. So for example, if you and I were driving after this interview to go get a cup of coffee and somebody suddenly swerves in front of us
Yes.
and we whip the car,
Yes.
what are you going to feel in your body?
feels like butterflies. I'll shake.
Yep.
Sweat maybe.
Yep.
A little bit of panic.
Yep.
And your muscles tense up.
Yep. Exactly. So you just had a panic attack in the car.
Oh.
But the reason why it wasn't scary is because
It made
intellectually
sense.
it made sense.
It made sense. Yeah, like of course I almost died.
Yeah, the swerving was your brain taking over to get you out of there. That's a panic attack, basically.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
In a way that's healthy.
Yeah.
And then when
serves us.
Yeah, when the car pulls away, what happens in your body?
You start to like it stays for a minute, but then you start to go like, okay, I'm safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What happens for people that struggle with anxiety is they have that response and it doesn't make any sense because they don't understand it. So it escalates because they get afraid of it. And once you're afraid of anxiety coming on, then you actually make it last longer because you're resisting the up and down of it. And so there's two things that you can do. First, what I want you to do is I want you to write down, well, actually, first what you do is for a week, anytime you catch yourself time traveling ahead or worrying, use the 5-second rule and interrupt it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just say, I'm not thinking about that. Mm-hmm. You want to build a muscle of catching yourself hanging out in the worry loop.
Oh, catch yourself when you're hanging out there. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're thinking about your roommate situation this fall, and it's not even this fall yet. You're worried about what classes you're going to get. You're worried about whether or not you're going to lose the weight before the reunion. You're worried about whether or not anyone's going to hire you because you've been home staying home. Like you're like sitting here just in the doom loop, right?
I do this with my daughter, and so I'm curious if you can give me some advice from someone who has it, because again, I don't know her experience, but we will get into this dialogue. We just did it last night. She's planning her wedding and she's launching a beauty brand. And so she was going through like all of the what ifs thoughts in her head. And she was like, I'm so anxious. And so I'm dismissing each one of her what ifs and what ifs. And I just keep dismissing it.
You wanna know why?
Then I'm like the toxic positivity mother, like, so you're not worried, okay? Good night. I'm going to bed, but you're not worried and you're not anxious.
Well, so when somebody who's anxious brings their problems to people, people are like, well, because here's the thing. I did this for years.
Okay.
And my kids' anxiety just escalated.
Okay.
So there are two mistakes all parents make.
I'm taking notes.
All parents make these two mistakes, including yours truly. I mean, I caused my kids years of therapy because of these mistakes. And myself, of course, for blaming myself for making these mistakes. Number one is invalidating the worry.
Okay.
We think we're helping our kids by going, let me tell you all the reasons why you don't need to worry about that.
Okay.
What actually happens is you shove your kid further into the corner because they don't feel seen or heard.
Ooh. Okay.
This will change your life as a parenting method.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
This is all you say. Would you like me to give you advice, or do you just need me to listen?
Okay. I can do that.
95% of the time, my kids say, I just need you to listen.
Okay.
They're getting it out of their head by coming to you.
Yeah.
And I have the same dynamic with one of my daughters where she comes to me and I've become her blankie emotionally.
Sure.
And then I immediately try to go, but that's not an issue and that's not an issue. And that's good that you have that fight with that friend because she's a jerk anyway.
Yeah.
And she just is coming to be heard. That's it. And I keep the anxiety around because she's not resolving it in a healthy way because I'm fighting with her about whether or not it's actually legitimate to feel this way. So I'm also making her feel less than for having these worries.
I trust you. I trust you when you say this. But there's a part of me that feels like, but she doesn't see if she's struggling with this, I just have to explain to her that this is how it will work.
But here's the thing. Here's the second mistake. We think it's our job as parents to fix the things they're worried about.
Absolutely. It feels like an obligation. You're only as happy as your least happy child, they say.
But here's the thing. When you step in to fix it, you are telling your child, I don't think you can.
Right. Absolutely.
Or I don't think you can face this.
You don't have what it takes.
Yes.
Let me do it for you.
Yes. And I made this mistakes for years. I was creating a learned helplessness in my kids. I was entrenched in this toxic pattern of my daughter coming to me with her concerns and worries, which were very, very valid, and me trying to fix them because I was worried. but all she felt was mom doesn't hear me. And this is actually a big deal. And she thinks that simple solution is going to fix it. And the truth is, the simple solution always fixes it. But she's not coming to you about the stuff she's talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
She's actually expressing that deeper emotion of this hurts, or I'm scared, or I don't feel good enough. And when we stay up here, like, let's get rid of this and let's take care of that and don't think about it this way, we're just trying to help. We just love them.
Yeah.
The deeper thing, the deeper wound that they keep having trigger this anxiety, it doesn't actually get addressed. And so when you listen and just listen and listen, anything else, great. Is there anything you need from me? Because then what happens is you're teaching them how to think strategically, make requests, and ask for the help that they need.
Yeah.
This all comes back to, by the way, this high five habit in the mirror. Because if you can't stand in the mirror and see a human being that's trying, that's struggling, that's anxious, that feels insecure, and still go, I hear all that and I got you, and we're going to get through it. You're going to constantly be seeking that assurance in everybody else about the surface level things in your life. When the real issue is something much deeper. And when you start to connect with yourself at a deeper level every single morning and see a human being and celebrate them, no matter where they are, even if the wedding stuff is falling apart, or the bridesmaids are complaining with each other, and I don't even know the stuff, or
Sure.
you're just worried you're not going to fit into the dress, or you're worried about where people are going to sit at the tables, or you're worried about who's going to show up,
All
or
the
you're worried
things.
about, like, all the things. You can stand with yourself with all those things going on and still love and support and celebrate yourself, and know that no matter what happens, whether the seating arrangement gets right or not, or that you got your own back,
Yeah.
you're going to see yourself through it.
I love that you're a fan of therapy. You talk about it. And also finding out the right medication, maybe even, like you said, knowing if you have the right diagnosis. Like, that's huge.
Oh,
because
it's so liberating.
once you, like, really truly understand your brain, which, we can probably spend a whole nother hour talking about that. It just doesn't make sense that right now the standard of care is we ask a couple of questions, we don't look at the organ, and then
weird.
we decide what's going on with you. Are you a fan of therapy for kids, and at
Hell
what
yes.
age? And
Any age you need it. I'm a fan of talking about everything.
yeah, did you send your kids to therapy?
When they needed it, absolutely. When our kids, when our son started sleeping on the floor
At what
at
age?
the age of 8, and it went from one night,
His bedroom or on the floor in your
Ours.
room? Okay.
and it went from one night to 3 months. Yeah, we got a therapist, all right.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to learn, I'm really screwing this up, because by letting him stay on the floor, I'm actually communicating, you're right. You're not strong enough to sleep through the night.
So this brought up an email I got from a mom this week who said she ended up with a daughter who ended up being very suicidal, extreme bullying, etc.
Yeah.
And she kept telling her, like, it's going to make you tougher. This is how girls are. Like, you're going to be okay. I went through this in middle school too, all those things. And she said, the one thing I regret not doing was taking it serious
Die
enough.
by suicide?
No.
Oh,
Daughter's
okay.
alive.
When you said regret, I was like, oh,
Her regret was that she didn't transfer her to another school
Yeah.
and realize it was. So, when I think about, like, okay, you can fix it yourself. I believe in you. I trust you. How do we find that balance?
Well, I think in extreme situations like that, you got to listen to your kid and the experts.
Yeah.
Like, if your kid is crying that much for help and is suicidal, get them out of the environment they're in.
Yeah.
Period. If you have a kid that's got chronic anxiety and they're starting to opt out of life, you need support in supporting them in inching toward the things that are scaring them, because it's only through facing the things that are scaring them. And that doesn't mean striding into a school where you're getting bullied to the point of wanting to die by suicide.
Yeah.
But if you're afraid to go out, they're afraid to go out of the house, or afraid to invite somebody over, or afraid to...
Which is really common right now in this age group, like 13 to 19.
I think it's also common coming out of the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it probably has a lot to do with that. They're afraid to drive their cars. They're afraid to go off of social media.
See,
yet
I
they
think
hate
that
being
this,
on
by
it.
the
Like,
way, is a lot of our overparenting. I think that we have so bubble wrapped our kids because we don't want them... It hurts when your kid is in pain. that we don't force them to do things that are a struggle. And I've certainly succumbed to this. After a long day of work, do I want to fight with my kid about whether or not they should have their phone in the room? No.
Right. That's
Should I
honest.
have done that sooner? Of course. Because what I didn't realize about our kids and their phones is that part of the problem with phones in their bedrooms after a certain hour is they feel obligated
Yes.
to be available to their friends.
And to know what's going on with everyone everywhere.
Yep. And so there is a psychology driver that is more powerful than they are. And as parents, it's important to kind of know when to draw the line and when not, even though it hurts, even though they're going to hate you. Look at the same stuff our parents said to us, but I think it's more complicated with technology. It really is, because they're on their laptops for school. And they're on their phones doing FaceTime in study groups, and they're on their phones in FaceTime playing video games, and that's how a lot
They
of
were
them
on their
socialize.
phones and on their devices, and they were forced to be so,
Right.
like first graders all the way through the
Well, I
pandemic.
remember being on the phone upstairs talking to my best friend Jody Bricken in secret at 11 o'clock
With
at
one
night.
of the cords that
Yeah,
went
and
like
all
that.
of a sudden, mortified because my father picks up and is like, "All right, you two, I can hear you. Hang up the phone." You're like, "Oh my God, okay, hang up the phone. I gotta go, Jody." We're way up past our bedtime.
Yeah.
And we are not doing that with our kids
Right.
because they have a whole world in their hand. And so I do think one really important thing that we put in place way too late was a basket in the kitchen with a charging station. And after a certain time, our kids had to have it in the
I love
basket.
that tip. I
And
love
that's
that tip.
where my phone goes in my bathroom at night. That's
Yeah.
where I charge it, even in a hotel, no matter where I am, because I can't be trusted.
Yeah.
I'm going to grab it and look at it.
Yeah. Well, talking about the high five habit,
Yeah.
I was in preparation for our time together today, I was thinking about how that's like one of the first things you teach kids. Like if you notice, like little kids, they learn to wave goodbye and they go high five, and so why not teach them this habit and to give it to themselves too. And so
No,
that's
they
what I
have
love
to
about
give
the
it
book.
to
It's
yourself.
so
Yes.
helpful for people any age. You're not saying like this is going to fix somebody who's has some deeper issues to deal with,
Actually,
but it's a good
Let me tell you a
strategy.
story. Let me tell you a story. So a really important story that I think, actually there's two. One is in the book and one happened yesterday.
Okay.
So a woman who was in a domestic violence shelter, massive childhood trauma, just escaped a very abusive relationship. She's lost everything. And she wrote to us from a domestic violence shelter and said that what the high five habit has taught her after 5 days is that she knows that she has a lifetime of healing ahead of her. She knows she has a tremendous amount of work to do. But now she knows that she can have her own back. And that's like one of those moments where when that clicks inside somebody, now it's not going to change the reality of what she's facing. It's not going to change the very real obstacles that she has from a psychological and economic, everything perspective.
But it was the
changes is
moment.
her
Yeah.
and her ability to rise up and to face these things. And the second one was yesterday. So this circulated in an email to our team this morning because I like to see from our audience what's the impact of what we're doing. And so we circulate an email every morning with screenshots of comments or emails or stuff of what people are saying. And there was a woman that said, now keep in mind, the High Five Habit book is not even out yet. I've only just shared it on social media. Can't even really get into the deep science, which we only like scratched at the surface on in our conversation. She said that she was at an AA meeting and somebody stood up in the AA meeting and shared the High Five Habit.
You're kidding.
No, and said to everybody, you have got to get on the bandwagon with this because we all need to wake up every day and see a human being who is trying.
Wow.
And who needs encouragement and support.
Wow.
And to think that a simple idea backed by science is already going viral and helping people not only help themselves, but help other people by sharing it.
Yeah.
It is the most just magical and exquisite thing in the world.
And it's got to feel amazing.
Please, Mel, give me the 5 hacks. How the hell do I make these new habits stick? How do I create structure, discipline, and order in my life? Well, it's very simple. You're going to use simple hacks. That's all you're going to do. You can call them systems. You can call them triggers. You can call them cues. You can call them structure. You can call them whatever you want to be. My friend Amy, who you have heard on this podcast, has this term that I laugh about so much because it makes me think of belly buttons. But she basically says there are two kinds of people in this world. There are people that are innie organizers, meaning you manage everything in your head, right? You're thinking about it all the time. That's not how you're going to be successful when it comes to change. I was an innie organizer, and I have an innie belly button, in case you're wondering. I know that's a little bit too much information. I don't know why, but it is kind of intimate to share whether you have an innie or an outie belly button. But I have an innie. I blame it. You can blame that on the doctor who tied your umbilical cord. Yep. I often tell myself that if only the doctor who tied my umbilical cord, who happened to be my father, who was a medical resident at the time, I blame my father for the fact that it doesn't matter how much I exercise. I have a hamburger bun belly button. Like it's like a flat line. And I say to myself, if he had only tied the knot tighter, I would have one of those amazing round like belly buttons that are like the size of a nickel that some people have. I've always wanted one of those. No, I'm not getting surgery. But so I have an innie flat hamburger bun belly button. That's not what I was supposed to be talking to you about. An innie organizer is somebody who tries to stay organized in their head. You have to be an outie organizer. That's what you have to be when it comes to habits. Why? Well, remember, in the episode we just released on the science of habits, there are only 3 parts to a habit based on all of the research in habits. Science has never changed. The cue, the behavior pattern, and the trigger. That's it. You have to figure out systems to have the cue or the trigger outside of you. And when you start to figure out how to get the cue, the thing that signals the new behavior outside of you, get it out of your any head and get it out into the world. When you start to do that, that's the secret to making behavior stick. And what you're going to learn is going to blow your mind, because I know that when you're trying to change your head, you're keeping it all in your head and you're not using systems outside of you, you are frustrated like Ann is.
Hi, Mel. I'm Ann, and here's my question. Why is it so hard to break through some daily habits and do things differently? Why can't I stay consistent in my daily tasks?
I'll tell you why you're frustrated. The same reason why every innie organizer is frustrated, because you are trying to stay consistent in your head and you are not using simple systems and simple physical cues to keep you organized and to keep these changes top of mind. That's it. And you are managing so much. And you listening to me, you don't give yourself enough credit for how much you're juggling in your own mind. Stop keeping behavior change in your own mind and let's get it out of your head, because I want you to know something. You're not the problem. You have everything within you. You're not the problem. You are capable of learning new habits. You are capable of making amazing things happen. You're not the problem. The problem is that you're attacking this as an innie organizer. You are planning to do this all in your head. And all you need is outie systems that keep these new changes front and center in front of you. That's how you stay consistent. Stop relying on willpower. Stop relying on having to remember what you need to do. Absolutely not. There is no way you are going to achieve your goals or stay consistent or make all those amazing changes that you want to make, that you deserve to have happen, unless you start to implement systems in your life. And that's what we're going to do next. We're going to take a short break. We're going to hear a short word from our sponsors. And then I'm going to come right back and I'm going to teach you right now the 5 simple systems that I am using right now. I have researched these because I'll be damned if I do not complete the 75 hard challenge, especially since I'm doing it with my husband, who's doing it now for the 3rd time, and he's leading a group of people from around the world through it. My daughter's also in, her boyfriend is in, so is my brother. There is no fucking way I am letting myself fail. And I will fail, like I did last time, if I rely on my own mind. So I am getting out of my head, and I am getting into my systems, and so are you. And I'm going to explain them in just a second. Welcome back. So we are talking about the 5 simple systems that are going to help you make new behavior change stick. Okay. So, system number 1, and this is the Mac Daddy of Audi organizing. Ready? Make it visible. And by make it visible, I mean put it in front of your freaking face. Okay? Because here's the cool thing. Instead of rearranging your mind and your mental to-do list, rearrange your house and your environment to support you in remembering your goals and achieving your habits. Okay? That's how you make this stick. You make it visible. You make it obvious. So let me give you a list of some of the things that I have done. So first, I have the list of all of the things that I need to accomplish in this challenge taped to my mirror above my bathroom sink. Why is it there? Well, because I want to make it visible and obvious. It's the first thing that I see in the morning, and it's the last thing that I see at night. Here's another example of a way to make the habit or the goal visible. My water bottle and the nonfiction book that I'm reading, I put that by the coffee maker every single night. It is sitting there in the morning. Why? Because I can't miss it. I mean, it's obvious. I walk in, I go to make my coffee, boom, there it is. It's like, hey, bitch, don't forget to drink the water. Hey, gonna want to sneak it sometime. What do I have? The stuff that I don't want to drink. But the thing that I need to drink is right there. It's visible. Here's another way that I make the habit visible. Every night before I go to bed, I lay out my exercise clothes on the floor. It is a giant middle finger to myself because you want to know what? When I wake up in the morning, do I want to work out? Do I want to have to work out outside? Hell no. It's 37 degrees and raining in Vermont right now. Who in their right mind wants to go outside? But when I wake up, it's visible. It's outside of my head. It's in my face. It is reminding me, oh, there's that promise that you regret that you made, Mel. And then I have to remind me of my why as I'm pulling on my tights. The question is, why does this work? Well, let's turn to research from Harvard Business School. Because this research from Harvard Business School shows that when we make decisions for our future selves, we make better decisions. So let me unpack this for you, okay? When you wake up in the morning and you got all your habits and goals in your head, it's the old you. And you got a decision to make in the morning, right? Do I feel like exercising? Do I even remember I need to exercise? It's sleeting, horizontal, disgusting 37-degree rain outside. Do I feel like exercising? If you are in your head making a decision in real time, you are likely going to make a bad decision, right? I don't want to exercise, so I'm not going to. I'll do it later. But when you make decisions for your future self, and that's what you're doing when you literally take the time to put a Post-it note on a mirror. That's what you're doing when you take the time to pull all of the booze out of the fridge and stock it instead with better choices. That's what I'm doing when I put the clothes on the floor. I am making a decision as my future self. I am saying, I know Mel Robbins well enough to know at some point this woman is going to have no willpower. She is going to be weak. She is going to be desperate. She is going to be emotional. And so I need to make a decision for the future Mel Robbins, the Mel Robbins that wants to change. And when you think from that point of view and you set yourself up for success by making these things visible, you freaking win. Because according to Harvard Business School, you make better decisions when you think about who is the future you and what would that person do. So the night before, plan out as many decisions as you can. Because the other thing that you can do, and that means put the water bottle by the coffee maker, set the journal out where you're going to see it, lay out the clothes, put the phone in a different room so that it's not there to look at first thing in the morning. These are things that you can do as the future you. What would the person who already lives this lifestyle be doing? Act like that version of you. And when you set yourself up and make all this stuff visual, here's the other cool thing that happens. You reduce what's called decision fatigue the very next day. And you're taking advantage of this planning for your future self. And you know what? There's a third benefit. I love this. It lowers activation energy. So we talked about this in the episode called Motivation is Garbage. Activation energy is just a fancy term that means how much fuel or energy does it take you to get started on something? Activation energy is the force that you need to apply to doing something. So I'll go back to the example. It is so much easier for me to get going when my exercise tights are on the floor next to my bed. Duh. It is so much easier for me to get my water consumption done, to drink that like big first thing of water if it's sitting out waiting for me. Duh. Because it takes a lot more energy, right? A lot more force, a lot more fuel for me to not only haul my ass out of bed, but to remember I need to put on exercise tights and to pull open the drawer and to figure out which pair to wear and then to pull them on and then to look at the jog bras and then to decide if I need a sweatshirt or I need a this or I've had to like burn through fuel just to figure out what freaking outfit to put on. By making decisions for my future self and making it visible, boom shakalaka, people, this is easy. I am setting myself up for success. Here's another powerful way to make things visible. Use the alarm on your phone. Seriously, this is a genius hack. Put the alarm on your phone to use to help you be your future self. It's like a reminder from the future, okay? Cake's done. Get up, go check on it. No, seriously. So every single smartphone has the ability to set an alarm. And on the alarm, when you go to set the time, there's a label. Right now it says alarm. You can literally change the label to help you remember anything. And here's what's super cool about a simple alarm on your phone. Research has found that twice as many people who received quit smoking messages quit smoking over a 6-month period. So these little systems like setting an alarm on your phone, whether you're reminding yourself to take the vitamins that you want to be taking, or you're reminding yourself to get outside for the run, or you're reminding yourself to spend 30 minutes working on a project that you wanted to get done, they're going to make you, based on the research, twice as successful, twice more likely. This simple stuff works. And it's not that hard. It's not that hard, right? Not that hard to put a Post-it note on the mirror. Not that hard to set an alarm in your phone. Not that hard to set the water bottle out, but you got to do it, okay? Simple systems work because your life is complicated enough. And if you can put that Post-it note up, you are setting yourself up for success. I'm telling you, it's true. And that leads me to system number 2. And this is the one that Mel Robbins has to use even more than like stick it in your face. And this is the opposite. Get it the fuck out of here, okay? Remove the temptation from your sight. Get it out of here. Out of sight, out of mind. I wish that were true. Because a lot of times you're going to find that even when you say, okay, that's it. I'm not going to eat gluten. I'm not going to eat sugar. I'm not going to eat dairy. Still going to be on your mind, which is why it needs to be out of sight. So the things that you don't want to do, the bad habits that you have, the little addictions like your phone, let's make it harder for you to just slip into those things, okay? So let me give you some examples. If you don't want to drink, put the alcohol away. Get it off the countertop. Get it in a cupboard. Better yet, put it in the basement. You know, if you need to get up early or if you want more sleep, here's what you need to do. Get your phone out of the bedroom. This one simple system, remove the phone from your bedroom. will change your life because it won't be there. You won't look at it in the middle of the night. You won't look at it as you're laying in bed. You won't lay in bed and look at it. Get it out of your bedroom. You want to know why? You can't be trusted. Neither can I. And I'm going to give you a really harsh example of this. Let's say the person you love the most has a really bad addiction. Like, let's just put it out there. They're addicted to cocaine, okay? You love them. They're trying. They're recovering. They're doing great. Would you ever put an 8-ball on the bedside table? Of course not. You are more addicted to your phone than people who are addicted to cocaine. I'm not kidding about this. The research is very clear. And so anything that you have a problem regulating yourself with, get it out of your sight. It's an addiction. I'm dead serious about this because I am in that category when it comes to the phone. I know this intellectually. In my head, I know that I shouldn't be looking at my phone, which is why I got to get it out of my bedroom so that I don't look at it. I'll give you another example. For the next 75 days, gluten-free, dairy-free. Why on earth would I stock my fridge with the cheeses that I love? I'm not going to, because it would be torture. And look, if you can't remove it from your fridge because you have kids who drink milk or your roommates are all drinking alcohol, you can certainly stick the milk in the back of the fridge. You are within your rights to ask your roommates if they could just store the alcohol in the cupboard instead of on the counter, so it's not like there in your face. You only have to be. And here's what's so cool about removing it. The research shows that when you hack your environment this way, right? This is just a simple system. Get it the fuck out of here, okay? Out of here. We got the Audi out of here. You only have to have that temptation a tiny bit more inconvenient to have this system work. They did this really interesting study at Google where they used to keep M&Ms in open bowls at Google, and they were curious in the Google offices. What if we just switched up the system here, and instead of having M&Ms in open bowls, what if we put them in bowls that had lids on them? The candies are still there. You want to know what happened? Employees ate 3 million less M&Ms over the course of a year. Why? Because out of sight, out of mind. Making it just a tiny bit more inconvenient to get the candy had people often pass on it. And the candy wasn't so tempting because they couldn't see it. And this also proves what you've already learned. Decision fatigue is a real thing. Simply having to consider lifting off the lid before you reach the M&Ms created enough friction for people, enough of a pause, that it made them not do it. Just like you having to pull open the drawer and pick out your exercise tights often has you walk right past that drawer and not do it at all. So, if you want to do it, stick it in front of your face. If you don't, get it out of your sight. Because I promise you, there is going to be a moment where you are going to get desperate and you are going to be wondering, why did I agree to do this thing? You're going to be Zoe standing there at a lunch wanting to eat cake. You're going to be Eric, and instead of turning that treadmill on, you're going to want to take your coat and launch it right on top of that treadmill, or you're going to be like me. This morning, as I am standing there in the kitchen and I'm making a cup of coffee and I am pouring this plant-based creamer into my coffee, and I'm thinking, I would kill another human being for whole milk right now. I even scrounged around in the fridge to see if there was any in there. I'm not going to lie. Not proud of that moment. It's a weak moment for Mel Robbins. I am way more addicted to my whole milk than I thought. Sadly, there wasn't. But you know what? Not sadly. Thankfully, there wasn't any in there. I had no choice because I got it the fuck out of there because I know myself well enough that if I have an option to be a rebel and cheat, I will likely take it. And so I'm glad. I choked down the plant-based creamer. And I got 69 more days to go. Now let's go to another question. And this one comes from Jack.
Hey, Mel, it's Jack. I've got a quick question for you. If I start setting goals, how do I know if I'm going to be successful? What's kind of the biggest indicator or way for me to know that I'm on track?
Jack, great question. And it brings me to system number 3. And I got to tell you to brace yourself because this is going to sound redunculously obvious. But the only way to know that you're on track is to track. Period. That's system number 3. You have to track your progress. Again, let's go back to any organization versus outie organization. You are no longer allowed to track your progress casually in your mind. You need to get it outside your mind, which means you need a system for tracking progress. And so back to 75 Hard, I'm going to share with you my daughter's system, which I've stolen. What she did is she created this amazing grid on the wall using Post-it notes. And so for every single day of the 75 days, she wrote 1 through 75 and then created this giant square grid on the wall. And every single evening when she finishes the day, she pulls a Post-it note off. And pulling that Post-it note off, that is like, that's like a rip. That's like a yes. That gives you the dopamine. That is like a box checked. If you are a to-do list, I love my boxes checked. I love my things in order. You will love checking boxes and keeping track. Another example of this, tracking the miles you run on an app like Strava. Or maybe you can just like make a grid on your computer and print it off, or find one, on Google and print it off online. Checking boxes either on something you've printed off or on a habit tracker. I personally prefer paper because I'm 54 and Chris, my husband's 53 today. So I had to think about, okay, wait, how old am I? I robbed the cradle. He's 17 months younger than me. It really works. Okay. So I sometimes forget to log on to apps. And so for me, you got to understand yourself. You have to make these systems work for you. An app may be the best damn thing that's ever happened to you. For me, when it comes to tracking myself, it's got to be paper. I got to see it somewhere like right in front of my face, which is why I use my bathroom mirror. I will also use the wall in front of my computer or the refrigerator, places that I know that I'm going to bump into it. For you, you may be fine doing it on your phone, on a computer, but that system doesn't work for me. And so that's the other thing. Kind of be flexible with this. Try things out. See what feels right for you. But tracking your progress, this is not negotiable. Get it out of your head because there is foundational research here. See, you start to get addicted to keeping a streak. Think about Snapchat. Ooh, we got a streak. I don't want to break the streak. Think about have you ever noticed that you're out now, everybody's all addicted to Be Real. And the second that notification goes off, people are like, oh, we got to do our Be Real today. I didn't do my Be Real today. This is about streaks and progress and not breaking the chain of progress. And so in apps and social media apps, they've gamified this natural tendency in psychology. And so you can do the same. Create a system that's fun for tracking yourself. And remember what I said at the very beginning, Zoe, my cake eaters, my sugar cutter outers, my people who keep making promises that they don't know why they're doing it. Get clear about your why. And remember, if you're doing a grid and you have a day off, first of all, you will know that it's a day off. Shake it off and try to get back on track tomorrow. Okay? We don't really want to see 2 or 3 days off in a row, but if you're tracking your progress, this is the other magic of tracking it outside your mind, you see it. And you're empowered to get back on track the next day so you can check that box. Love it. And look, I think it's obvious, but also there's research that's proven that the more often that you track your progress, the greater the likelihood that you're going to succeed. And the chances of your success are even more likely if you report your progress publicly, or you physically record it. So this is what I'm talking about. Physically record it. physically record it in an app, physically record it on a piece of paper. This comes from Dr. Benjamin Harkin of the University of Sheffield, published this in the Journal of Psychological Bulletin. Harkin and his colleagues, this is not like some one-off study. They conducted a meta-analysis of 138 studies. And you know what that means to us real people here? It means that he took 138 studies on goal setting that had almost 200,000 people in it. And when they combined it all and crunched the data, they found that that monitoring your progress toward a goal, no questions asked, increased the likelihood that you would achieve the goal. There's like no arguing with me on this one. So if you don't want to achieve the goal and you don't want the behavior to stick, I got an idea for you. Manage it in your head. If you're serious about making the habit stick, you're serious about the goal happening, monitor this shit, okay? Let's get serious. Let's stop dicking around here about what you actually want to do, and let's use these systems. We got 2 more systems to cover, but first, I have to take a quick break. We got to monitor our sponsors, listen in, let's hear what they have to say, and then when we come back, we're talking system number 4 and system number 5. I'll see you in a minute. All right, welcome back. So happy you're here. See, I'm monitoring your progress. You came back. Check. So we've talked about the first 3 Audi systems. Make it visible, like right in front of your face. Get it out of your head, put it in front of your face. Number 2, whatever you're not supposed to do, get it the fuck out of here, okay? Let's just remove all temptation. You and I are friends. We know we're kind of rebels. We know we can't be trusted until we can be trusted. So let's just get it out of here. Number 3, monitor your progress, okay? We are serious about change around here, which means you got to get it out of your head. Get it on paper, get it in an app, and get public about it, okay? Super important about this. Let's talk about system number 4. This is another way to get out of your head, okay? Get it out of your mind. Create a plan. I'm going to say that again. Create a plan. We are not talking kindergarten habit here, people. We are talking college level, PhD, habit sticking systems. We're not screwing around. If you want to freestyle in your mind, you are not going to be successful. This is not jazz. We're not like just going off the rails here. We are following the music score to the T. You need a plan, people. And this comes from a study, this comes from studies, okay? You know I'm throwing the science at you because a lot of times, when the stuff is common sense, yeah, I know I need a plan, Mel. Yeah, well, then why aren't you doing it? So let me tell you the research. At UT Austin, they found you're going to be more likely to succeed at behavior change if you make specific plans to implement it. Now, I don't mean to insult your intelligence because I think this is obvious. But when you unpack an example of this, it becomes very obvious why you're failing if you fail to plan. So let's go back to 75 Hard and my promise and commitment to complete 2 workouts every single day, one of which has to be outside. It is critical that I plan ahead. Critical. I am fucked if I don't plan because I travel for work. And so I'm looking at flights right now for a 16-day business trip at the end of January. And as I'm looking at flights, you know what I'm thinking? How the hell am I going to get an outside workout and an indoor workout in? And I got to still fly from San Diego back to Boston. Or here's another way that I'm planning. Tomorrow in southern Vermont, we're going to have 4 inches of snow on the ground. And when am I going to work out? And what am I going to wear? And do I need the grippy things on my feet because the driveway is like a luge run right now? And what time of day am I going to? Like, am I going to get this done before 4 o'clock, which is when winter comes and the Death Eaters are here and it's dark as hell? And based on my schedule, like I got to plan this stuff because you know what? If I don't and I just start my day, here's what's going to happen. I am literally going to go, I'll do it later. And then it'll be 8 o'clock at night. I got to tell you a quick story about my husband, Chris, because this is when it occurred to me that I might be married to either a robot or to the world's most disciplined person on the planet. So Chris started 75 hard for the third time, well over a month ago. And so it was December 21st, and we had woken up in New York, because we go there every year during the holidays to see a show with the kids. It's just one of our traditions. And Chris exercised, did his first workout in the hotel gym in New York. We then drove to Connecticut. We had lunch with his brother. And then we drove up to Boston, where we were going to stay with his oldest brother, and we were going to go to a holiday party. Now, as we're driving to Boston, the weather gets supremely crappy, and we are driving in horizontal rain. You can barely see. It is foggy as hell, and I'm looking at the time, and I'm thinking, we are going to arrive 30 minutes after this big party has started. This party with all of our old friends where we used to live in Boston. I was so excited to go to this party. And I'm thinking in my mind, Chris hasn't gotten his outdoor workout yet. Could he maybe just stick his head out the window and like do some face exercises? Like, could we, do something? Like, what are we going to, I want to go to the party. I'll tell you what, this is impressive. The man said, I have to get this done. I'm like, but it is raining horizontal outside. It is dark. You don't know the neighborhood we're going to. There are no street. He's like, I don't care. I'm doing it. We pulled outside. We decided to go to his oldest brother's house because he was getting this done. He said he would do this. And bad planning fucked him. But he was not going to let bad planning break a promise that he had made to himself. This is what integrity looks like. So we go, not to the party, but we go to his brother's house. And I sat inside because there was no way I was going to go to that party without him while I knew he was walking in the pouring horizontal rain. And he borrowed a pair of sweatpants from his brother, which were cotton, by the way. We're not talking performance gear here. And just this big old coat. And the man left and walked for 45 minutes at 7:30 at night in the horizontal 40-degree rain. And then he came in, toweled off, changed his clothes, and we drove to the party. In 26 years of being married to Christopher Robbins, I have never been more attracted to the man than I was in that moment. There is nothing sexier than a person who keeps their word no matter what. And the way that you make it easier to keep your word is by planning ahead. Planning ahead is about looking at the week ahead. And if you're going to eat healthy, figure out what you're cooking for the week every night. And then go to the grocery store. And if you're not going to be eating dairy or gluten like I am, this is new for me. I don't normally cook without dairy or gluten. And so this is requiring a lot of planning so that I don't just open up the fridge and hope that somehow this has magically happened that I'm going to be successful. And making a plan is a piece that's super obvious, but it's completely overlooked. You're thinking about what you need to do. Again, you're an innie organizer rather than getting out of your head and creating a plan out in the real world on paper. And the most basic plan at all is look at your fucking schedule. Look at the weather. Look at what's in your fridge. Look at what your commitments are. I'll tell you another quick story. It has to do with exercise. Day 4, 75 hard. Just like Chris, I didn't make a plan. I exercised first thing in the morning, but I didn't make a plan for the second one. So 8 p.m. rolls around. And Chris is like, when are you doing your second workout? And of course, I'm looking at the man that walks in torrential rainstorms, like without blinking an eye. And I'm like, oh, I already did my outside workout. I think I will stretch in front of the TV while we're watching Jack Ryan. How's that sound? He put his hands on his hips. My daughter was sitting there too. And he's like, get on the treadmill. Go on. We'll wait. When I tell you, in 28 years of being with a man, I don't think I've ever wanted to kill him more than in that moment. But he was right. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So let's go back to Zoe. Hi, Zoe. Slice of cake, 4 hours in. don't make yourself wrong. You know what went wrong there? Either you really don't want to give up sugar or you just failed to plan. So if you're planning on cutting out sugar, what's your plan when you go to a party or a restaurant and cake is being served? This is what's called if-then planning. And it's research by Heidi Halverson, who wrote about this in the Columbia University Researcher. And if-then planning is a way to keep yourself on task by creating a backup plan if your current plan doesn't work. And here's what's really cool about if-then planning. If-then planning boosts your ability to stick to goals, and they studied this with exercise, from 39% success to 91% success. If it rains, then I'll do this. If I miss my flight, then I'll do that. If I'm going to a party and I've committed to dry January, then I'm just going to bring a non-alcoholic beverage. If a friend invites me over for dinner, then I'm going to email or text them back and say, I'd love to, but I'm trying to cut out gluten and I don't want to be a pain in the ass and have you have to fuss about me. So can I bring something that's gluten-free to supplement what you're already making? Because let's face it, if you don't plan ahead, if you don't make an if-then plan, you feel embarrassed. And then you either push your food around your plate like some weirdo, or you eat and you break the promise to yourself. So if I don't get exercise done tonight, then I'm not going to binge watch TV tonight. I'm going to get my exercise done instead. If you didn't give yourself enough time to get that side project done this morning, then you're going to finish it at 7:45 tonight after you put the kids to bed. Bada bing, bada boom. Pretty cool, right? All right, now let's get to system number 5. Do it in the morning. There you go. Do it in the morning. It's that simple. As much as you may want to bitch about being a morning person or getting up earlier, getting up earlier, getting the most important stuff done in the morning, this is the keys to the kingdom. It really is true. Being an early riser is like a first domino that falls. And once that domino falls, you've gotten yourself out of bed an hour, a half an hour earlier, all these other dominoes fall in your life. And I get it. It's hard to do. And one huge way that's going to make a big difference, and you hear me talk about this all the time, and it's because this is one of these domino habits. You do this, and it triggers a whole like of change. Get your phone out of your bedroom, period. It's a huge way to hack this. And you don't want to know another way to get up early? Get a puppy, because they'll wake you up. They need to be let out. And I've learned this one. You get a puppy and you'll be a morning person. Another one, marry somebody, date somebody, sleep with somebody who gets out of bed early, live with somebody who has a great morning routine. And look, it's not just common sense, it's science. Number 1, your willpower is the highest in the morning. Number 2, your speed of processing, highest in the morning. Your ability to focus, highest in the morning for the first 4 hours of the day. And by the way, it's likely to be the time of day that you have to yourself, the time that you can actually control before other people, little people, furry people, and all the commitments at work start taking up your attention and your time. And yeah, I get it. You've got toddlers. Well, that means if you're serious about this, you are going to have to get up a half an hour earlier before they get up, which means you're going to have to go to bed a half an hour earlier. But aren't these new habits and a better lifestyle and feeling in control of your life, isn't that worth it? That's your why. Because if you can get an extra hour every morning, you can get everything done. You can do all the little things that the future you put in place for you. You can read the Post-it note on the mirror. You can drink the bottle of water that you set out. You can write in your journal that you put in place on the table in the kitchen. You can pull on those exercise tights that you laid out. You can spend an hour getting things done. Honestly, this has been the secret to my second attempt. And look, I get it. I'm 6 days in. I'm working these systems like a mother, let me tell you. But this has been the secret. I feel 6 days in. 6 days in last time was about when I quit. I'm like, this is I can't fit this in. I'm on to bed. 6 days in, this feels not easy, but it feels like, okay, I got this. I got my systems. I got my head down. I'm just going to keep on plugging away at this. I'm getting the photo done. I'm getting the outside exercise done. I'm getting that done in the morning. And look, it's not a cakewalk, but it's getting done. And here's one more bonus that I want to give you, okay? You want to supersize all this? Really want to get outside of yourself? You really want to be an outie organizer when it comes to changing habits? Holy cow. Could you please stop doing this in your head alone and get out there and get a friend and do this with? Literally, whether you are texting somebody every day to check in, or you're jumping on Peloton and you're high-fiving people, or you're in a Facebook group, I got to tell you, the power of a community of people, whether it's your sisters or your high school friends, or it's your neighbors, or it's a group of strangers that are organizing themselves on a text chain, it's incredible. So Chris is doing 75 hard for now the third time. I mean, basically, it's his life. It's not even like a challenge for him. This is just his core habits. And he is leading a huge group of people through this from around the world. And he has this amazing text chain going on WhatsApp from people around the world. So every single day when I wake up, after I look in the mirror and I give myself a high five and I check the list and I start checking things off, when I finally look at my phone and I see what's going on in this WhatsApp group, it's freaking unbelievable. It is so motivating to see other people outside me, outside of my little, sphere of whatever, outside of me, outside of my little tiny town here in southern Vermont, outside of my own little brain, outside of my own little bullshit, seeing all these other people out there doing it. In fact, just 2 days ago, there was a woman in Iran on this WhatsApp text chain with a video on her morning walk out in a park in Iran, like just talking about how motivating it is, especially with what's going on in her country with women's rights, to be focused on behavior changes that she can make to tap into the power in herself. So when I'm sitting here in the pouring rain in Vermont bitching about stupid things, it's sort of like, oh, for God's sakes, Mel, get over yourself. Get your ass out there. Stop chirping about the stupid stuff that, give me a break. Doing it with people in an online group, doing it with friends in a text group chat, doing it with family members. That's what it's all about. That's how you supersize it. The encouragement of people outside of you will tap into the crazy, awesome, intrinsic motivation inside of you for why you're doing this. I know. You're welcome. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.